Hello, my name is John Long, 4-H Youth Development Specialist and 4-H Shooting Sports Coordinator. I would like to take this opportunity to talk to you about scoring targets, and we're going to do two presentations regarding target scoring. One will be involved in the scoring of the targets themselves, and then the next presentation will be on how to set up your scoring room and its environment. I'll do this through a presentation, and we'll walk through that together now. This presentation will be for those target scoring matches from the county all the way through the district event. This does not cover scoring on the state level, although the concepts are almost identical. The only difference would be the difference in some targets that we are using, and the course of fire may be different in some. Let's start off with a few scoring tips. First of all, you are one of the most important team members. You scoring the targets is giving the child the result of their effort. So it's a very important responsibility. First of all, you need a reality check. And by that, I mean that you need to know how many shots should be on each bull and the total possible points per target. How do we know that? We know that by going to the current district event handbook, which covers everything within shooting sports through the district level, from county forward to the district level. You need to be consistent, and by that, the same people need to score all 22 pistol targets, the same people need to score 22 rifle, and on and on and on. You need 2 scorers and 2 adders, and they need to double check each other. You need to group each shooter's targets together to make sure that you have all the targets. Knowing that course of fire, knowing that you're shooting a 3-position match, and that little Johnny is supposed to have a sitting, kneeling, and prone, group each shooter's targets together. Make sure you have all the targets that are theirs. If little Johnny is shooting a 3-position match, then you will know that he needs a standing position target, a kneeling position target, and a prone position target. Therefore, if you only have 2 targets for his score, 1 is missing somewhere. That helps you check yourself. It helps keep everything in order. You mark plug shots with a P. Plug shots are to be plugged only once, not multiple times. Every time that you put a plug in a hole, there is the chance that that hole is being changed. Plugs do not consist of a pen or pencil. If you have a question as to whether a shot is touching or cutting a line, you need to plug it. You need to look at it through an eagle eye. Don't stick your finger in it or a pencil in it and say, well, I think that they made it. All crossfires should be handled on the range. If you don't know what a crossfire is, I will explain it now. You have a shooter on the left and a shooter on the right. Let's say you're the shooter in the middle. The shooter on your left is supposed to shoot 5 shots on his target. He shoots 4 on his target and shoots 1 or the 5th shot on your target. That must be handled on the range. That is not your responsibility in the scoring room to determine if a crossfire has occurred. Once you have finished scoring the target, you need to initial the target. That way we know that that target has been scored and who it has been scored by. Take your time. I know at matches when there's a large volume of shooters on the line, you are pummeled with many targets all at once. Don't let this force you into a feeling of, I have to rush what I am doing. Let's just take a basic scoring overview. The targets are broken into concentric bands. The highest band, touch, is scored. Lines between the bands are part of the higher scoring area. The target is to be scored from center out. Center is scored as 10, with each ring out 1 point less, and shots outside of the scoring area or off target are scored as 0. Here's an example of a B40/4 target. The /4 means that there's actually 4 of these targets on a single piece of paper, but we're only looking at 1. And this would be for our pistol. So, if we look, we have a 10 here, a 9 here, an 8 here and here, 7s here, here and here, 5s being here, here, and 1 3 being here. All of these, again, remember what I said? Starting from the inside out, all the way down, recorded on the side, and a total is made at the bottom and circled. You will notice that this target was not initialed. Now, what happens when you have 2 shots in 1 hole? A lot of times it looks like a figure 8, such as here. If you look closely, you can see there's an inset there and an inset there. There's 2 shots in that 1 hole. 1 shot will look like an oval. And that is a 1 shot where the pellet turned as it was going into the target. You need to look if there are too many shots in a target or if there are too few shots in a target. Both are the same. Knowing the course of fire is important. let's just look at each course of fire. I'll run through them quickly, but each one is basically the same way. The discipline is given here, air pistol. The category for this is 5-meter air pistol. It tells you what target you will be shooting. One target, 5 shots, each bull. So we have 4 bulls for 20 shots total, 200-point maximum. So, if you're scoring a B-44 and the total you know for juniors 1, 2, and 3 would be a 200-point maximum, there is no way that your addition should add up to 385. Now, let's go down. This is 10-meter air pistol. Look at seniors 1 and 2. 2 targets, 5 shots each bull for 40 shots. What does that do? That doubles your maximum point value to 400. This is why it's important to have everyone scoring the same target. If you're scoring 5-meter air pistol and you're constantly looking for this 200-point maximum, if you swap to 10-meter air pistol into a senior category, or vice versa, you may be easily drawn to the fact of getting it mixed up. You need to stay within the category in which you're in. So you know what these maximum point values are. You know what which category you're shooting in or scoring in. Air rifle is different. It's a different target. Again, this is 5-meter air rifle, juniors 1 through 3. An AR-410. You need to know that these targets have 2 cider bulls down here in this square. So these don't count. You're not scoring these. Just like in 10-meter air rifle, you're not scoring these 2 in the middle because they are cider targets. Interesting to note, all air rifle courses of fire have a 300-point maximum. But remember what I said? The difference in the number of targets. You've got 3 targets, 3 targets, 3 targets, 3 targets. Okay? When you look at junior 3s in 5-meter shoot standing, kneeling, prone. How many targets are you going to have? You're going to have 1 for standing, 1 for kneeling, and 1 for prone. 3 targets. Labeled as such. Junior 3s, seniors 1 and 2 have 3 targets. The same labeling, standing, kneeling, prone. .22 rifle is different targets, the A32 and the A36. Notice the similarity in the A36 to the AR-510. These 2 are the cider bulls in the middle. They are not counted. This is a cider bull on the target. They're labeled. Each one is labeled where your cider target is. Depending on what class, you get, for light rifle, you get 2 shots per bull. It's still 300-point max. Remember what I said? Knowing how many holes are supposed to be in the paper. You look on the junior and precision classes, you still get 3 targets, but you get 1 shot per bull, but the same amount of points for the maximum. 22 pistol uses the same target, but it uses 3 targets: slow, timed, and rapid, for a 300 point maximum. Now, let's just take a moment and look at the targets that are scored for archery. There are 3 targets in archery. One is the 60 centimeter, the other is the 40 centimeter. And we'll talk about the third one in just a minute. But it's good to notice the size difference. Now, archery is scored on the range, but it's also good to know how, if you find yourself on the archery range, how these are scored. The 60 centimeter obviously is the biggest. You can see how the size difference is here on a 12-inch ruler. This is the 40, which is much smaller, is indicated by the ruler. And here I have them overlapping just to show you the difference in size. There's a big difference. This is the Vegas 5-spot. Now, I'm going to talk to you about scoring, first of all, the multicolored targets, the 40 and the 60. But in essence, everything is scored the same. This is just the center, the same size as this. All scored the same. So when you think about it from the standpoint of how we're going to score, it's the same. You just don't have as many concentric bands going out on the Vegas 5-spot. The Vegas 5-spot is for archers who stack arrows consistently in the same spot so they don't break arrows shooting into their own arrows. So let's look at how we score just your archery targets. Concentric bands, lines broken, go up to the next target value the same way. We start with the 10 here. Now you may ask, what is this in the center? That is considered an X in the center of that. So if the arrow either breaks this line or lands within this area here, I'll even draw a circle around it, that is considered a 10X. In the advent of a tie, an X, or the number of X's, break the tie. Okay? So keep that in mind. Those are going to be marked on those scorecards. If you see those scorecards come in, and you're double checking addition, if you see those X's, you need to make sure that you're counting the number of X's that are on the card and making record of that in the program as well as on the score tally sheet. So, just like in our small bore and air events, we start inward and go outward. So this is a 10, this is a 9, this is an 8, this is a 7, and it goes 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? So, let's talk about the Vegas 5-spot. Remember, it's the same size as this center here. So, you score it 10, 9, 8, and 7. That's it. You don't have any of these other bands on the outside. So anything outside of this 7 or that doesn't break this band on this is a miss. Notice that it also has an X in the middle of that 10 ring, so you're going from 10X to a 10, to a 9, 8, and a 7. Now, this is not a double value. I want to make note of that. Let's go back to the feet of target where I can emphasize this. If a hit is within this X, it is a 10X. It is not 2 10s because it landed within this one. It is a 10 regardless. It just so happens if it lands within this circle, is it considered an X. You don't get additional points other than the fact that it's a shot 10. Now, let's talk about shotgun scoring. Shotgun scoring is done on the range, obviously, during the event. While it is going on, you have a score. That score says hit or miss on the range. Hit is a visible piece of target. That target is broken, but it has to be a visible piece. It cannot be dust on the target. You will see dust come off a target at times and they say, well, that target was hit. That is not the case. It has to be a visible piece in order for it to be considered a hit. Another thing to remember is a parent's scorecard or someone else, that is not the official score. The score that is placed on that scorecard is the official score. So you need to make and understand that, because a lot of times you'll have people come up to you after the match and say, that's not right, I scored such and such, I saw it break a piece. You have to understand that you are the authority if you find yourself being a scorer on the shotgun range. You make the call. If there is an instance of question, that has to happen at the time that the shot, or right after the shot was placed, and it has to be mutual agreement on the scorer or the puller, and not on somebody else. Muzzleloading. When we shoot bottles and critters, I didn't have an example here, but in the event handbook you have an example of each one of those. Those are scored in the same manner. If you have the bullseye, you score it in to out. Values are scored with the same target values. If the line is broke, the highest band is awarded. Critters, same thing. They have lines and they have target values. If you've got a 10, line's broken, then they get a 10. If there's an 8 or a 7 and it broke the line, then that's an 8. Obviously, if the target, you'll see the targets as a squirrel on the side of a tree. If you hit the tree, that is no target value whatsoever. So you keep that in mind if you find yourself scoring muzzleloader targets. Now, we're going to transition as part of this presentation into the target scoring workshop environment. What is an ideal environment for the target scoring room? The ideal place is not directly off of the range for some disciplines. Some disciplines that we have during the state invitational are scored on the line. A majority of the time, targets are scored in what's called the scoring room. And I'm going to give you some helpful hints when you set up your scoring room, whether this be a small match or a large match, that I hope that you'll find helpful. From the range to final score, the ideal environment for target scoring. First of all, we need to understand who needs to be in the scoring room. That would be the scoring officer, or the person in charge, the scorers and the adders, the person who is doing data entry that generates the reports, and what we call the target runner who delivers the targets from the ranges. Who should not be in the scoring room are parents and participants, volunteers not scoring the targets, range officers, and all other people. This is to be a sterile environment as far as outside individuals are concerned. You are the scoring team, and you need to conduct yourself in a manner that you are not interrupted as to that would cause errors. The ideal scoring room environment is quiet, preferably a comfortable room, climate controlled, well lit. It's organized with the necessary materials that are needed for flow as well. Organized does not mean junky. You need to do this preparation ahead of time, so when your scorers come into the room, they sit down and they go to work. It should be low traffic, secluded from ranges and gathering areas. Don't put it next to the concession stand. If it's secluded, you are less likely to have parents knocking on the door wanting to know when the scores are going to be posted. It is a non-chaotic environment. That means when you come into a scoring room or go out of a scoring room, it should be just like you left it. I put the environment in a scoring room akin to a library. Very quiet, very hushed, so everybody can do their job accordingly. Your scoring room needs tables and chairs. You need calculators, pens, pencils, etc. I personally prefer to use the solar-powered calculators. Less likely to go out, and you can have, you have plenty of them available. If one happens to go out, then you can grab another one, and you're not missing a beat there. Pens and pencils, pencils to be sharpened before time, that's always a good idea. Anything that you can do ahead of time is for the betterment of the match and for the scoring room. Have the scoring plugs and or overlays such as the Eagle Eye, and have plenty of staplers so each group can staple their targets together by the shooter. going to give you just a state invitational example of how we have set up our scoring room in the past. This goes for wherever we are, wherever we have the event. We try our best to set up a scoring room the same way. Here's our target runner. One thing you will notice about the target runner is he has a safety vest on. He is a recognized individual. He is not a parent coming off the range with the target rolled up under their arms. The target runner knows that he is responsible for those targets, and he is to get them back to the target room as soon as possible. Door guards, where you have an event to where you have multiple doors that could be accessed. You have access areas to where, if you see here, you see somebody sitting down in these areas. Notice that the door is labeled event staff only. This area here is for resting of workers. Notice the name badges delineates that they are supposed to be in that area. The scoring room is to the right of this picture. Door guard number 2. Again, labeled as the scoring room, scoring personnel and statistical officer only. Name tag and a nice smile on the face, because again, this is not to be rude. We just want it done in the best manner that we can. The scoring team, as I said in the previous presentation, double checks the scoring. Notice water, eagle eyes, everything that's needed. This individual is got a name tag on saying that they are a scoring team member as well. Scoring team double checks the adding. Notice the calculator. They are double checking the adding. We talked about initialing targets. We have the range officer initials here. Each bull is scored with the plugs marked. The final score is circled, and the scorer's initials are at the bottom. Remember how we said we had to remember how many targets a person had? This number indicates that there's to be 3 targets. There's 3 position, and it's the kneeling position. Remember where we talked about sighter shots? I'll point that out now. SS on the middle of this target here, which is an AR-510, are for sighter shots and are not to be scored. You'll notice that each bull is scored 10, 9 equals 19, 6, 8, 14. See, this here is a shot that has been plugged. Notice P, that's for plugged. Here's another one that's been plugged. Organization of the targets. Once all the targets are scored, you need to have enough room that when you lay them out, that you have enough room for that match. Here's the data entry point. You enter the scored targets into the scoring program at that time. Take care of your scorers as best you can. Give them breaks. They need breaks. They need a little downtime, because once the event starts and you're sitting there for 3 hours scoring, your mind begins to wander. You may have a headache, you may get hungry, and there's more likelihood that you're going to have errors. Make sure you got those eagle eye overlays and a scoring plug, and you can find those online. You can look on eBay or you can look online, and you can find them fairly easy. Just a close-up example of how well some shots will be, and how to determine what shots, how many shots, and how many shots are on a target are critical. As I said, you have a very important job. One thing that we need to remember is that we are for the youth. We want to make sure that we give them the benefit of the doubt, that we score their target to the best of our ability, and that we score everybody the same. What you do for one is what you should do for all of them. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. Have a great day.